Brother, your story is amazing. I really wanted to dig deeper. How Live Beyond, your brand, your lifestyle all began. So, from being this corporate baller, working at a high level job in London banking, and you were also in the oil and gas sector, I'm curious to dig in more into your like transition moments. Like, walk me through the dark night of the soul, as they say. What sparked your curiosity to escape the 9 to 5 rat race of achievement towards a path of more, as you call it, self-refinement, well-being, and remote work?
Excellent. And again, thank you for having me here. We've been waiting for a little while to jump on the podcast, and I was really excited. I think you have a very good lineup of people that have been speaking here, and I'm pretty sure you guys are reaching a lot of people, and you will continue to grow. So congrats on what you're doing, and thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure as well. We're both Colombian, so that's also really cool.
Sí, señor.
So I'm in Prague at the moment. I'm in Czech Republic. I'm traveling a little bit. Still pandemic. This is August. I don't know when this is coming out, but we're still in the middle of this. So to answer your question, I think I'll step back a little bit. So I was raised in Colombia, very traditionally. Very, I guess, traditional is a nice word for close-mindedly. I was raised in the typical family in which going to high school was the first thing, then university, then your post-grad or work, and then retirement, and that's it. Life was basically a set of milestones that followed that, and success was definitely money, achievement, career, multinationals, and I was part of that. Since I was a kid, I was always intrigued and curious about many other things. Like I wanted to be a 3D animator. I wanted to work for Pixar. I've always been very creative. And that was basically what drove me in the early years of my life. But my parents had another plan for me. So I was basically driven to follow a more traditional career path of medicine. I managed to dodge that one because it was definitely not for me. I believe that that's such a powerful career that you really need to be there for your patients, your clients, you're saving lives. And definitely I wasn't that person for that. So I managed to not pursue that, but I did chemical engineering. I ended up doing that in Colombia, 5 years of chemical engineering. I went through that despite not liking it because it was the path to go. I was just living that path. And then I ended up in the oil and gas sector. And that was my first taste of what it was to work or live. If you guys know much about the oil and gas sector, I was on the field, and it's a complete different way of living. You are basically isolated in oil and gas camps or platforms or offshore or in remote places onshore, without really having the chance to balance or integrate any other than just being there. And you are deprived of your freedom for a matter of weeks or months at a time. So I did that for 3 years, ticking boxes of success in the money camp, in the international multinational company. I was earning 3-4 times more as my peers that had just graduated from chemical engineering. So, and I was not spending a dime during my time in the field because you're there, really, you're just working all the time. So I saw my financial situation boom, and that meant nothing. I was not doing anything that was really meaningful for me, but still there was no other option. That was what it was, so it was 3 years, dark moments, as you said, in which I was, emotionally impacted. My relationship started going down. I wasn't happy at all. I didn't really have a life. And I thought, this is just, the reason I took the job was because I saw it as a shortcut to do something else differently. And I set myself a target, minimum 2 years, maximum 3 years of this miserable life. And I literally did it. Year 3, I got accepted for a master's in London, and I did my next step. So it was that pain of living there, not really liking the job, which took me to apply and find other ways. So went to London and ended up working in banking for 6 years after a financial career, a financial postgrad, And I call it banking, but it's more equity research analysis. So it's basically stockbroking for clients. And then it was a different thing, but it was the same. The pattern was the same. I was pursuing something that ticked other boxes of success, money again, London, the banking life, traveling around the world. I was still involved with oil and gas. So I got to sit down in meetings with the CEOs of the big oil and gas companies. We're talking about, the Shells, the BPs, the Exxons, and speaking to these people that are in the energy business, and sometimes they're, very powerful and all these things. So from a career perspective, I was very accomplished. However, internally, miserable. I was not really happy with what I did for a job. I was good at it, but I wasn't fulfilled. My relationships took a hit. My mental health took a hit. My physical health took a hit. And I saw all those things happening at the same time. And in 2016, which is 4 years ago, all that came at the same time. And it really was the last push for me to say, okay, or you do something about this, or basically you're questioning everything, right? And that was the main trigger for me to say, like, okay. And what happened? I was forced for the first time in my 30 years of life to raise my hand and seek for help. And I was really living in a life that I never asked for any therapy help, any sort of mental coaching, any mentors, nothing like that. And I was fortunate enough to be with the right person at the right time. And she brought mindfulness into my life. And when I started reading about mindfulness and practicing mindfulness, it completely changed my life. And that was the beginning of the journey that 2 years later resulted in me taking the leap and creating LiveBeyond as a brand, as a platform, as a way to help people around the world maximize their life experience. That is our sole mission. Help people maximize their life experience. We focus on remote work, and hopefully we talk about a little bit about that. But it is allowing people to enjoy this ride as much as they can in a healthy, in a productive, in a meaningful way, as you mentioned it, refine themselves. That's where we are.
That's such an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Before we move on to like more talking about your company that you built, I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about exactly the mindfulness aspect of it, because it seems like it was more of the turning point for you to be open to these new ideas. In your words, what do you think mindfulness has as an impact, especially coming from your background in the corporate world? How do you think that mindfulness can help not only in those types of people that are like type A, like always busy, to even more like regular people, students, or just younger people in general?
Mindfulness is, if I could say it in a few words, is the recipe, is the secret sauce for living a meaningful life. This is backed by tons of research, tons of science as well that back it up and prove it. But the simple idea is to train your mind and practice being here, being present for a few minutes a day, throughout the day, trying to be less distracted and be present. That means that you are more aware about where you are, what you're doing, and more self-aware. It is the first step to really start sort of discovering those passions, discovering those fears that you have that maybe you didn't know that you have. Our subconscious mind really rules our lives, and we don't really know all those fears or those beliefs that are ruling our lives on a daily basis, that we that really are the ones that make us choose what we choose or do what we do. And sometimes we call it fate. And there's a really cool quote by Carl Jung about that, like until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your mind and you will call it fate. And that is so important. And how do you tap into the subconscious? How do you tap into what you really are, what you really believe? Those dreams, those passions that people talk about, how do you do it? You just need to dig deeper. And for that is mindfulness. So in my particular case, I found that I was living 30 years in sort of autopilot. I was, just going with the flow, but not really being aware of what I was doing. And then I thought when I started practicing mindfulness through meditation, I started identifying that I was worried about things that had never even happened. I was worried about all these things that could happen in the future, ruling my life in the present, and I would stop myself from doing stuff or would do other things on based on things that don't exist or ruled by your past. And I was recently rereading a book that I recommend, which is the 80-20 Principle. It's an amazing, amazing book, and by Richard Koch there. And he has a good way to describe the present moment, because this is something that's getting very mainstream, meditation, mindfulness, and this is good, but we need to take it seriously in the way that uh, the right meaning for it. So what am I talking about? Being in the present, it's not just being here and not caring about the future, not making any plans, not really focusing on what you could become or the milestones to reach any particular goal. It doesn't mean that, because the present moment is a combination of past, present, and future, and all of that happens here. So when you practice mindfulness, which is a non-judgmental, non-distracted attention to the present moment, you're able to clarify, and I think that word is super important, clarify why do you want what you want, how are you going to get it, and how to really maximize the experience. So it's really not to identify with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your emotions, and really just come back and go like, oh, okay, that's just something that I cannot control, so I'm not going to worry about it. Or this is something I can control, so I'm going to do something about it. But really, mindfulness is a practice to extend that gap between the things that happen in your life and the way you act or react. So that's super powerful. It's a superpower because you catch yourself quicker. We will always do dumb stuff. We're humans. That's what we do. But when you master that and you work on it, you're able to live a better life. So that's exactly what it did for me. And it doesn't only work for the corporates. It has other stuff. It helps your neuroplasticity, allows you to focus, allows you to get things done. That's how we are using mindfulness for this particular mission. But really, it's for everyone. And I would recommend your audience or anyone to practice it. There are many tools. Meditation is one of them.
Yeah. When I was coming into college, well, my mom is a meditation instructor, a yoga instructor, and she had always been on this like wave of meditation, yoga, mindfulness, and I saw it so far away from me, even though it was in my own house. And like I was always afraid to take that step and try it because like I associated it with things. I judged it. I looked at it in a different way. And I like how now more and more people are getting on mindfulness and meditation, exploring the mind.
Yeah.
I wanted to dig deeper into your story about, so when you started learning more about mindfulness and you started like looking within you, where did the idea of Live Beyond come from? Is that something that you had always thought about? Where were you looking at what remote work was going towards? And like, was it a combination? What clarified your idea?
Great. So it's a combination. What I'm trying to do every day and what I'm doing with Live Beyond is a mix of experiences, of things that I found that have worked for me and have worked for others, and we're bringing this to more people. So it's a combination of things. Obviously, mindfulness, as I mentioned, it opened my life, completely changed my life. And it was at first the ideas of don't identify with your thoughts, don't identify with your feelings. Then practicing through meditation, it was really tough at the beginning. I mean, I was going through this dark time and sitting for 10 minutes to like try and practice all these things. All my demons came at the same time. I was like, this is not for me. Meditation was not easy to make a habit of at the beginning. However, the idea of mindfulness and the theory behind it and everything that it meant completely changed my life. And then I got into meditation. This is now a daily habit and I do it every day. So that's one. And it boosted my well-being. So it not only helps your mind to be more clear, but for you to be more confident, more outgoing. You're able to see your fears and overcome your fears. all of these things start happening. You are more aware of the things that you do, what you eat, how you just basically behave. So your fitness, your everything starts clicking. It's really part of the engine of everything. Mindfulness is just a bit, but it's really powerful. So well-being started to be key for me. I started to be more productive at my finance job. I started to be more healthy as well. So that was a big part. And I also was reading a lot of books to improve myself. So there were three things that kicked off Live Beyond, which are the pillars of the Live Beyond method, as we call it. One is productivity, really, because I've always been working in these jobs that require a lot of your presence there, a lot of your time there. And I thought, why are we wasting our life only working if there's so many other things to enjoy your life? So what are the ways to get more stuff done in less time with less stress? So I started to research a lot about states of flow, productivity tips, productivity techniques, how to manage your attention, how to manage your distractions, and therefore how to manage your time. It's not time management skills, because that doesn't really work. It's managing your attention and your distractions, therefore time gets managed. So that's the first one, productivity, effective execution. There's another book I recommend by Peter Drucker, The Effective Executive. Amazing. Everybody should read that. So that's one. Then the second pillar, well-being, health optimization, biohacking. It's really optimizing your mind, your body, your nutrition, your sleep, in order to keep this engine going at a higher performance, and tapping into that potential that we all have as humans. So the second one. And the third one is the self-refinement side, the self-actualization, to learn something new every day, to improve our emotional intelligence, our creativity, our resilience skills, those the characters, like the characteristics and the skills that we need to have to enjoy and perform better in this life. So those are the three things. Yeah. Where does the remote work come in? It's my personal fascination for traveling. I love traveling because I found in traveling a way of growing as a person.
Definitely.
Of getting outside of whatever it is, and learning new cultures, speaking to different people, getting lost and finding your way. That is super important for resilience, doing scary stuff. So for everybody out there who's wanting to set up their own business at some point, or go in the entrepreneurship path at some point, there's a lot of fears that will come. There's a lot of failures that you should expect, because you will fail. I'm not being negative. It's just what happens. You need to overcome those failures. Train yourself to do scary stuff every day. And scary stuff is as scary as taking a cold shower, or doing other stuff, as talking to random people and doing these things. So those are the three pillars. And when I was traveling, I saw a lot of people in cafes, and I saw a lot of people working with their laptops. And I was like, what are these guys doing? Oh, they're digital nomads. What is that? Oh, amazing. Okay, so what is this thing? And then I started seeing WeWorks, other co-working spaces booming around the world. And given my background in finance, I was paid for predicting the future. I was paid for telling investors what could happen in the future, so they should invest in these and that companies. So I was good at picking up trends, and I said, remote work is going to boom. Remote work is going to be a part of the future of work. It's going to take some years, because the older generations won't allow it yet. But guess what? The younger generations are coming, and we all want autonomy. We all know that we need to be productive. We need to work. And when we work, we should work hard. But that doesn't mean working hard for longer, So I thought, this is going to happen. It's going to be a matter of time. So with that flexibility, let's add the well-being, and let's add the self-refinement to allow people to maximize the life experience. That's why, for me, remote work is a tool to finally help people enjoy a better life. But for that, you need responsibility, accountability. You need to know how to do it.
Definitely. I wanted to ask you, so when you were looking into these trends and you started thinking about, like, what would an investor think and how could the future turn out, where did the whole idea of remote work begin? And, like, what were the main forces or people driving this concept into the mainstream?
Right.
Or trying to?
Yeah, 100%. So that's something that this is really cool that we're talking about this right now, because it's, August 2020, we're in the middle of a pandemic, which has forced millions of workers to work from home.
Because there's nothing more relevant right now.
Exactly. There was no other option. And the home office thing that we're experimenting right now, experimenting literally, it's not easy, it's not sustainable. This is not the future of work. Just for the people out there, this will be much better. It's called distributed work. It's a semi-remote model in which people will be able to have the autonomy and the flexibility to work asynchronously. That means without time bounds or time zone bounds around the world, collaborate and enjoy a bit more autonomy. However, this is not new, and this is the beauty of it. There's companies that have been doing this for years. The remote work revolution tried to happen in 2013, and it failed miserably in the US, at least. A lot of people, they call it teleworking, and many people were trying to work from home, everything, but it failed. Everybody was driven back to the office. Why? Because the companies did not support the employees in the habits and the behaviors that they need to work from home, because everyone wants to be their own boss. And the reality is that everybody is their own boss. Like, you need to command your life to do the things that you want to do and that it should do in a healthy way. That didn't happen, so everybody went back. What's happening right now? Technology has advanced massively. So from 2013 to 2018, 2020, we have many other tools, Slack, we have Zoom, we have many things that have evolved.
Calendly.
Calendly, which I love. It's just like, hey, here's my link, book whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it's those things are amazing. So it has allowed us to do a better job at remote working. What's also happening? The younger generations are coming to the workforce. Millennials are already a big part of the workforce. The Gen Zs are becoming a bigger part of the workforce. By 2025, around more than 70% of the global workforce is going to be Gen Z plus millennials. And that is a massive shift in the way that we think and what mindset. It's a mindset and a matter of needs, what we need as different generations. So this was all kicking off. That was already happening. What happened? The digital nomad movement happened. I mean, this is millions of people already existing around the world that just go on their laptops and work from anywhere. They make use of something called geo arbitrage, which means earning in strong currencies and spending in cheaper currencies. And guess what? You can do that from amazing places like Bali, like Thailand, like Colombia, like many other places, and enjoy better quality of lives. Who were these guys? The freelancers, maybe the startups, at first. And this thing was already happening. The movement was already happening. And what really is taking off right now is the realization that there is millions of workers that are unhappy around the world. And now we're talking about the corporate workers. I was one of them. I know exactly how it feels to be there, showing up every day for a work that doesn't connect you with anything, that you find no meaning in it. The statistics are crazy. There's only 15% of the global knowledge workforce that are actually engaged at work. So the rest are either disengaged, which means they completely hate what they do, and they are actively not contributing, or actually they're negative for their companies. And 60% of that are not engaged, which is they're just sleepwalkers. They're just there, showing up, FaceTime. So this thing was happening at the same time as which stress and anxiety derived by work was taking over. So mental illnesses around the world. This is happening. Disengagement. There's a really good book by Johan Hari, which is talks about what causes depression in people. And out of 7 things, one is disconnection from meaningful work. This is a serious thing. It's causing depression around the world, anxiety, suicides, and all these things. So mental health plus technology plus a change of generations, it's driving remote work. The only reason this hasn't taken off sooner is because there is a lack of trust between the older generations that make the decisions and the people that are working. It's like, if I don't see you, you're not going to be productive. If I don't see you, you're not going to show up. The pandemic forced that to happen. There was no other choice. So now that is remote work, and that's why we have a chance to do it. But for that, we need to help people to actually work remotely.
in one of your articles that I was reading this morning, you mentioned a concept called the skill gap and how it's giving effect to like sort of superstar worker. Can you explain further what you meant by that and how it's relevant in our life right now?
Sure, sure. So this idea derives from something I read in another book that I can recommend, it's just called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And basically, he coined the word deep work as undistracted, focused attention to tasks at work, to professional tasks. And he says that this is the skill that is a skill that's disappearing in the 21st century and that will be really valuable for the future worker. So he also says that something is going to start to happen and has already started to happen, which is the superstar effect. What does that mean? The people that are really good and that master attention, productivity, getting things done, will become superstars because this skill of focusing and not being distracted and actually getting things done with less stress, is going to become a superpower. And this is declining. The people that will get it are going to be superstars. What are they going to do? They have the power to change the game. They're going to say, okay, I get my things done. I don't want to be here from 9 to 5. I actually want more flexibility. I want to live a different life. I can do this from anywhere. If a company says no, you know what? They're going to go down the road when the next company is offering, a bit more flexibility, because that's the name of the game now. Companies around the world are saying like, I am more flexible. I am flexible. I offer this. This is happening as we speak.
Yeah.
So the superstar effect is doing that. People call it the race for talent, the war for talent, but it's happening as we speak. So this is the skill gap that I was mentioning. That skill of focusing, of being non-distracted, of also having creativity, that gap is widening as we speak. Why? Because the educational platform still trains us to do hard skills, and it's not really training us on empathy, emotional intelligence, creativity at work, stuff that we need, communication. If we're talking about remote work, communication is key. It's fundamental. How? Written communication, spoken communication. You need to have those skills in order to be a valuable remote worker. So that is the skill gap that I'm talking about. And these things are actually named 21st century skills. Anybody can Google it. There's a list of the 21st century skills. You can go and look. And if there's something that's lacking, you better start maybe working on that, because that will make you a superstar and that will give you better opportunities in the future.
So just to bring it all together, what are those main skills that you're talking about? So we have the attention, the focus, the mindfulness.
Right. So those are not the particular skills. I would say all of them, yes. But what are known as 21st century skills are things like creativity. McKinsey did a study and says that by 2030, creativity will be one of the most demanded skills, because what we're seeing is that, robots, AI, machine learning are taking over many of the tasks that humans used to do. And that will keep going. We need the human talent for what? For creativity, empathy, negotiation. They call it time management, but you know that I don't believe in time management. I believe in attention management. So behind that comes mindfulness, the rest of things. What else? Leadership. There's a list of things. If you Google 21st century skills, you'll get them. But what's the main point there? They're soft skills. There are human skills that the robots or the machines will not be able to immediately replace, right? Yeah. Those are the things we should be working on.
Wow. And let's talk about what you just mentioned about the attention management. How is that different from managing our time? And what are some practical applications that can boost our attention management?
Right. So the main difference I see is that we can manage our time. For example, a quick example is going to your calendar and say, I'm going to do this from 7 to 8, and then from 8 to 9, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to meditate 7 a.m. Then I'm going to journal. Then I'm going to read a little bit. Then I'm going to go exercise. Then I'm going to start my work at 9 and do that. That is literally time management, time blocking, which is super important in order to batch tasks and be able to have blocks of your time for a particular task. That is fundamental. However, if you don't manage your attention, if you sit down at 9, right, and then you have an hour or an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, to do a particular task, but you're distracted. You are going on your phone, you are distracted externally, going on websites or reading your email or stuff like that, that will definitely impact the time that you allocated for that. So time management goes out the window because there's no point in managing the time. You're not managing your attention. However, if you manage your attention, time gets managed. And what do I mean by managing your attention? Is really reducing the amount of distractions that you have. So many techniques is just, putting your phone away. One of the
That's the biggest game changer there is. Like, don't
yeah.
have your phone next to you when you're working.
Or if you have it, just because you have it and you need it, you're controlling your Spotify playlist, whatever, because, it happens. You have it there. Here's a tip that one of our clients and members at LiveBeyond told me. What he does is that he has his notebook and he would draw a little line to count the times he touches his phone. So it's 1. And then when you're tracking, when you're aware of what you're doing, which is the core of habit creation, which is a big thing that we do at LiveBeyond, is to help you create good work and life habits. Then you stop doing the bad habits and then you start building better habits. So that is one thing that I would say. The other thing is, obviously, when you avoid the distractions, the external distractions, then the internal distractions kick in. People can call it, fears, beliefs. We're already worried about many things, ego, the chatter, the monkey mind that is jumping around all the time. So how to manage the internal distractions? Mindfulness, right? So it's one that really helps you to catch yourself thinking about stuff and like, okay, no, and I'll go back to my task at hand quicker. Then the other technique is to try and enter flow states. So this is massive, behavioral neuroscience research behind this that has studied the states that the humans enter when they are, fully focused in a sweet spot or in the zone, in between tasks that are too difficult and too easy and that actually mean something to them, and then they're fully focused. We have all experienced flow at some point, either doing some sport or being with a loved one or reading a very interesting book or engaging in a very interesting movie, whatever. We all have experienced what being completely non-distracted, completely present to something that interests us is. That's a state of flow. And that actually can be trained to be done anywhere. And if you train yourself to do that at work, you can enter the flow states easier. Here's another tip: use productivity techniques like the Pomodoro techniques. What does that mean? Track your time, the time that you spend in focused, non-distracted work. Why? Because then you'll have a motivation to actually get it down, track it, and then you can count it. If you're not, there's another saying by Peter Drucker, which is, what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. If you're not measuring anything that you're doing in business, in life, you cannot really manage it. You don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And then I ordered a new book that I'm really keen to read, which is How to Measure Your Life. I'll let you guys know what that is. But this is, for example, just gonna cover this a little bit, but this is a way I manage my day. So for example, this DW is for deep work. So I would track my DW, my deep work batches of time. And that's a way to manage your attention. But there's many other ways, but those are a few.
That's amazing. Wow. I've heard of this concept before, like quantifying whatever we're doing. Biohacking is big on that. So like the quantify itself, how can we track everything we're doing? Do you think there are some downsides to tracking everything and becoming obsessive? Like for example, I just got this Apple Watch and now I'm like obsessive, like tracking how many calories am I burning or how much did I walk today? Things like this. Do you think there's a downside of over relying on our measurements to define ourselves or define our improvement?
I think any obsession is bad.
Yeah.
Even This is a really cool one that I listened to the other day. That's a really good question because, there, for example, I'm using this meditation app called Waking Up for the past few
Sam
months.
Harris,
Sam Harris, and he has a new lesson called spiritual materialism. And it happens with everything, you know, when we get obsessed about something, and you know, it's like, oh, mindfulness is the big thing, so I'm obsessed about it. Now I'm a spiritual materialist, you know, I'm wearing the beads and the whatever. Like, it's okay if that represents something to you, it's
yeah,
fine. But when you get obsessed about anything, any extreme is bad, to be honest. How does that come into tracking? I think tracking is essential for really improving, because once again, if you're not tracking what you do, you are not being self-aware. And you can track in many different ways. I have this one to track my sleep, right? I used it religiously for the first few weeks and months, and I was testing, because you test, you know, how did that impact my sleep? So how am I feeling today? And you start clicking in. But then you start to do it in autopilot. You already know that you didn't have a good sleep. You could say, this was a 60, this was something like that. You know, I was with a friend this morning going for a run, and I asked him, hey man, do you track your body percentage, like your body fat percentage? And he said, I don't need to do it anymore, because after my years as a cyclist, I know that I am around a 7%. So you know what I mean? The good thing is create the habit. By definition, habit is automatic behavior. And then once you have it, once you have the lifestyle built, and it's sort of automatic for you, you don't track it anymore. We do something called the LiveBeyond mentorships, and I encourage people to track a lot of things. For example, during the pandemic, I wasn't leaving my house because of the lockdown. So as soon as I could, I was tracking steps, because that was super important. Because I started tracking them, and I was like, 600 steps today. And I was like, that's terrible, because that's going to impact my mobility.
exactly.
So then I started tracking it. As soon as I got in, you know, above 7,000, 10,000 steps per day, I was like, that's done. Now I know that I'm back. So yeah, don't obsess, because that doesn't lead you anywhere, but literally track stuff so you're aware, measure your days. And here's something else I wanted to add. I love, as you know, books and reading remarkable people around the world.
Me too.
It's amazing. One thing in common that all of these people have is that they track, or they measure their days somehow. They review their day before going to bed, or however they do it, either their day or their week. They review and say, today was a good day. What did I do well today? What could I do better today or tomorrow? That's a good, even if you spend 2 minutes thinking about it, you are there already in the way. The good thing about tracking it is that then you can go and review and go like, these were good days, these were bad days. Well, let's do more stuff that I did in the good days. And then your life improves massively, because you're, once again, focusing on the things that make you happy. So, and then with the week as well, you review your week, you plan for the next week, and then you're also ready. Again, there's a downside to that, rigidity. Okay, no, next week I'm going to get all these things done. So I'm like, and then you start breaking promises to yourself. That brings stress. It brings all these things. So no extreme is good. No obsession, I believe, is good. But definitely tracking is something that will excel your life if you do it properly.
Wow, that's an amazing answer. Thank you for that. And you're giving us so many techniques and tips. I love that. I wanted to ask you, before we move on to talking more about like what type of experiences we can have with LiveBeyond. One of the main issues right now is that we're overworking. So our home office now is like our space, and people, they have to work 3 hours more, 4 hours more, because they put that on to themselves. Because I think maybe you can get more into this, but it could be a problem of self-management. What do you think is driving that?
Yeah, it's a mix of problems. First of all is the 9 to 5 is complete BS. I mean, the amount of productive work that the average employee did before the pandemic, before anything, was what, 3 hours a day or something like that. The rest, they're just there, maybe doing some other stuff, but not really meaningful or productive for their goals. That is a fact. And the real problem here is that when bosses and managers are trying now to say like, okay, I cannot see you, you're not FaceTime, are you actually working? So people are super stressed. Add to that global recession, people losing their jobs, companies closing. Nobody wants to lose their job, not in these times. either. So they're just like, oh yeah, I'm working, I'm here. So they're overworking, right? So they are, because they're not, unfortunately, we have not been taught how to work. We have not been taught what good work habits are. And that is another main reason we have bad working habits. We don't know all of these things that we like about just focus, get it done, focus on what it is. Don't work from a to-do list, work from your calendar, plus a main, most important thing list or something like that. Like these habits and these routines that we don't know them when we are forced to be in lockdown at home, which is our the place where we relaxed or we used to enjoy in many different things. It's a transition. So there's a combination of bad self-management, which is literally bad habits. I mean, you have good habits, you have good discipline, you have freedom. Discipline is not rigidity. Discipline really is freedom. So that's one. And then bosses not being able to manage their teams properly. The amount of companies investing in surveillance software, in some sort of like punching the clock type of software while we are working from home is insane. And that is terrible because that's what we've been doing for years, for hundreds of years. And for
it shows the lack of trust, I would say.
Exactly. And in part is deserved, because if we don't have the habits, if we don't know how to be productive, well, we need the carrot and the stick type thing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work because, again, behavioral science and neuroscience and science shows that kills motivation, that kills purpose in life. That doesn't bring meaning to human life. When you're told what to do all the time and you're not given the autonomy to do it, that impacts on your motivation or on your happiness at the end. So why are people overworking? Because of that. It's a mix of things. It will improve, hopefully, but it was expected, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is that if we continue this way, burnouts are going to go all over the place. Mental health is going to go even worse. Not only personally, but families. We are working from home with the families. If you have an unhappy person that is now more unhappy, more stressed, working all the time, that's going to have an impact on kids. And that, can be even worse. So that's the reality. That's why this is not sustainable. That's why we need to evolve this thing. And the message to the people is to, if you are in any of these situations, speak to your managers. Don't be afraid to speak. I mean, this is the right time to do it. The world is evolving as we speak. I mean, this is a real transition time. I mean, for work at least. So suggest better ways. I mean, improve the trust.
I think we're even sometimes afraid to ask, like, yo, can I have a week to get into remote working? Or I was reading the 4 Hour Work Week. I know you love Tim Ferriss. So how he gradually just created a job for himself where he was remote full time. So I think that's an extreme, of course, but I think just asking in general is a good place to start. I wanted to move on now to LiveBeyond. And what experiences, I know you guys have been working so hard in the past months to refine your method, to make the experiences the best possible. Can you get into that? Can you explain to us, like, what is the concept behind the brand?
Right. So as I mentioned, the main mission of LiveBeyond is to maximize people's life experience. We do that through the 3 pillars: productive remote work, well-being, and self-refinement. And for that, I do believe it's good to read, it's good to listen to podcasts, but what is really important is to actually do stuff and practice and get into it, because otherwise you fall into the obsession of self-help and self-development, and then you're just like binging all these podcasts, binging all these TV shows that are, they're amazing, inspirational. But if you are not getting the things done, it's tough. So what we provide is an experience in which people come, 20 people at a time, in amazing places around the world: Iceland, Colombia, Mexico, Italy, Bali, and more coming when things open again as well. And then you are with a group of 20 people, which makes a mix of members, so clients, and experts in all of these things that we're talking about: mindfulness, emotional intelligence, productivity, coaching, empowerment, biohacking, all this. And then you live ideal days in which we help you to create those habits, to design an ideal day and then repeat it. And an ideal day is whatever that means to you. We can help with these powerful habits, but then you do it. And that was how the business model was born, but obviously that was impacted by the pandemic. So as you said, we have refined the method now. It's the Live Beyond method, which literally is a structured way that can help people to adopt these things anywhere. I believe that the experiential learning is key, is really what more people should do. But with the current situation, we have adapted to allow the Live Beyond to reach them in a better way. So those three pillars, it's 5 areas that we focus on: work, mind, fitness, nutrition, and recovery. And then that evolves into 10 areas of somebody's life that we have surveys and assessments that can help us flag whatever you need or you could do better and what you should continue doing. So that is really what we're working on really hard now, and helping more companies and people to adopt this, because it is what you need to transition to remote work. Because for those thinking, how does this all fit into remote work, is because we call it holistic productivity. If you're a healthy, happy remote worker, you're going to be able to do it anywhere. You're going to be motivated, and then it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to be getting the results. And that's what we're trying to promote with Live Beyond.
It's such a visionary idea, and I love the concept. I love the branding. I love you guys bring such a cool new vibe. Even you in general, you have the style, and it looks really cool. I wanted to ask you, so it's Live Beyond what? What are we trying to live beyond?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because we did have a few words before the show.
Yeah.
As I was sharing with you how the name Live Beyond came when I was speaking to my coach, and I said, "What do you think about the name Live Beyond?" He said, "No, I don't like it, because it's like, live beyond what? I mean, that falls short. It doesn't mean." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm such a failure. I don't need to do this. I'll go back to my corporate job." I'm just kidding, but it's exactly that. Then it rang a bell. Live beyond what? You bring the what. You know, we're all different, and we don't believe in this wisdom that is just given to you, like you should do this. It's like, look, these are the tools. Select whatever you want. So we think about live beyond your limiting beliefs, live beyond your fears, live beyond the 9 to 5, live beyond the coronavirus, live beyond burnout, whatever, live beyond ego, live beyond whatever. You bring it. You add that secret sauce. The idea is to live beyond anything that is holding you down, to maximize your life experience, whatever that means. You bring it, and that's what we're here for, to facilitate that, so that you can maximize that life experience. And it's a lifelong journey. We don't believe in shortcuts. We don't believe, despite the fact that my article is called the 7 shortcuts to a happy life.
Yeah.
But it's like the 4-hour work week. There's no 4-hour work week. That's not real. But it's a way to tell people that there's different ways to do it. But I don't believe in quick solutions. That's what I mean. I don't believe in quick, easy things like read this book is going to change your life. It's not like read this book, you will change your life as you read it. And I believe in that. I believe in giving people the tools for them to use.
I love that. And we're going to move on to the last segment with the last couple of questions that we do every podcast. But before that, where can people know more about you, more about what you're building, plug in whatever you feel necessary?
Thank you. We're in the social medias, Instagram at livebeyond.global.
Mm-hmm.
Our website is livebeyond.global. We're on LinkedIn as well, and on Facebook. I mean, we have a newsletter. If you guys go to our website, you can subscribe to the newsletter. We share tips and stuff around the future of work, remote work. We call it Remote Revolution. And hopefully it's something that is of value and keeps you guys up to speed with what's going on around the world in remote work and how to actually make that transition. So in all the social medias, you can say hi, you can follow us there.
Definitely. And what events are you guys planning for this next upcoming year?
So we have Live Beyond Tuscany in September. That's going to be a week in the Italian sort of mountains, really, really nice in the Tuscany region. That's going to be 1 week. Then we have Iceland in November, and then we have Bali in December. So all of this is already set, already planned, ready to go. We are facing the virus, so it will depend on how things play out. But that's what we're doing. And 2021, we have a few new destinations that are really, really cool for people to join.
Definitely
So yeah,
excited for that. Very
yeah,
excited.
yeah.
So these are the final questions that I wanted to ask you. And the name of this podcast is the Energy Motto. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what that means. But the first question is, upon getting up in the morning, what's one thing that makes you feel alive? So in your life, what have you found that our tagline is ignites the flame within and allows you to tap into your energy, which we've said are the untapped sources of internal energy that humans hold to unveil innate physical, mental, and spiritual capabilities?
Wow, amazing. Amazing. It goes, I didn't know that, and I love that because it goes very much with the ikigai, this
Yeah.
Japanese word of what makes you jump out of bed every day. It's not easy, and certainly doesn't happen every day. But in mine is personally is serve people. I know that every single day I wake up, and no matter what's happening, I can really do stuff that can help somebody else find a tool or something that has helped me in the past. So it's really good, like go out and share, go out and serve. Um, that is for me the idea of I can do something that can help people, that can really help them be happier at the end of the day.
Mhm.
That is what really drives me.
Wow, I love that. And what are your like speaking from your generation to my generation, if this was maybe like the last day that you had to give us that one final nugget of wisdom to anyone that hasn't unleashed their energy, what would it be?
Right. Um, it would be time is our most precious and limited resource. And always remember, you're going to die. And it may sound very pessimistic, but it's not. If we really remember that our time is so precious and that our life will come to an end, try and maximize your life experience as much as you can, because it's the one journey, is the most precious thing that we have. Being alive is really a gift that we don't know. Maybe we have other lives, maybe not. um, but this life that we're living here is so limited. And when you, this is something that I love about Stoic philosophy. And the
Mhm.
Stoics talk about um, memento mori, which
Yeah.
means remember that you're going to die. And it's so true, because if you have that, you're like, what could I do today to make it a better place, a better life? What could I do today? And then that helps you snap out of whatever worries, whatever complaints that you actually are, which we all fall into. I'm also a human. I mean, I go through my stress periods. The past 3 weeks have been super stressful as personally, because of the whole thing that's happening around the
Yeah.
world. But I always go down to those things that remind me, okay, come back. So remember, your time is precious and limited. Make good use of it by managing the attention you put on stuff.
Mhm.
Don't pay attention to the things that don't serve you well, or pay less attention to those, and focus your attention on the things that give you joy, that get the results, that make other people happy, that maximize your life. I would say that.
Wow, I really resonate that. And David, I really wanted to appreciate the time that you've given to us, the wisdom, the techniques. You've been recommending books left and right. Thank you so much for what you're doing in this world. I'm so excited for what's to come with Live Beyond and seeing that evolve. It's definitely something that we're going to need in the future. And I can tell like the relevancy of your movement. And I'm really excited. Thank you for coming on. I'm so glad to see you. Unfortunately, we couldn't do this in Spanish porque si no hubiéramos hablado un poco más, pero muchas gracias, hermano.
Con mucho gusto. Thank you very much. We will have many other opportunities. Thankfully, English is a language that can reach more people, and I'm super happy to do that. Thank you for what you're doing. Once again, what you guys are doing is amazing. Super happy here to answer any more questions for the people out there. Happy to reach out, get in touch, say hello, follow us the idea. I love what you just said, movement. And I don't
Yeah.
tend to think of Live Beyond as a movement. I tend to think it as a brand that really encourages people to live a better life and live beyond those limits. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and it all comes from personal experience and things that I had to overcome, and hopefully I will continue. This is a lifelong journey,
Yeah.
and whoever wants to join, welcome.
Sure. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Thank
Take
you.
care.